All right, I'm back. Number 18. A board is 6.5 feet long. You cut off a 1 3/4 foot piece and a 2 2/3 foot piece. How much of the original board is left? A lot of clue words in here. They're all saying the same thing. Cut off, left, that's subtract. All right, so I have my original board and then I cut off these two pieces. So I'm just going to write that as one big subtraction problem. 6.5 minus 1 3/4 minus 2 2/3. And again, going right to the calculator with this information, and you are going to get 2 1/12, letter H. All right, next one, number 19. A truck driver drove 49 miles in 1 1/3 hours. What is the average speed in miles per hour? Again, this word per is a good clue word. However, it could mean multiplying. It could mean dividing. So the question is, how do you figure out which one it is? Which answer is going to make the most sense? All right, so let's try it. If I do 49 divided by 1 1/3, I'm going to get 36 3/4. If I multiply the two numbers, I'm going to get 65 1/3. Again, these answers represent miles per hour. So in 1 hour, this says that I would drive about 36 miles. This answer says in 1 mile, I would drive 65 miles. Well, look at this. If I go back to the problem, I drove 49 miles in 1 1/3 hours. There's no way I could have driven 65 miles in just 1 hour. So the correct answer is going to have to be the one where I divided. So the correct answer is going to be choice B, 36 3/4. Because dividing makes the most sense. Number 20. When working overtime, an auto mechanic gets paid 1.5 times the normal hourly wage. Overtime is the amount of time worked beyond 40 hours a week. The auto mechanic's normal hourly wage is $21. Last week, the auto mechanic worked 46 hours. Okay, part A says, write an expression to represent the amount of money earned last week. Explain your reasoning. All right, lots of information going here. I'm going to go back and reread it. So we're talking about overtime. Overtime is when I work beyond 40 hours a week. Okay, so last week I did do that. How many hours did I work beyond my 40 hours? Well, here's the 40 hours, and I worked an additional 6 hours. That's going to be considered the overtime. Okay, so now let's talk about just getting paid to work. I worked 40 hours and I get paid $21 per hour. That's my hourly wage. So I worked my 40 hours and I worked $21 per hour. I'm going to multiply those two together. My hours and how much I get paid per hour. Okay. Now I have to add that to my 6 hours of overtime pay. Okay. I still get paid $21 per hour, except I also get paid extra overtime 1.5 times that amount. 1.5 times the normal hourly wage. Okay, so this whole expression is representing how much money I earned. That's it. I can leave it like that. It's just as an expression. Second part says evaluate this expression. Evaluate, again, find the value of. Alright, so just this part, 40 times $21, that's going to get me $840. Plus 6 times $21 times 1.5 for my time and a half. And I'm just going to add those two up. Final answer, $1,029. Learned a lot of money last week. Again, very important to learn this. This is a basic skill that you need to know. You need to make sure your boss is paying you the correct amount, especially if you work overtime. That's why so many people like to work overtime, because you get paid extra money. 1.5 times as much as you would normally get. Okay. Number 21. Which of the following equations is equivalent to the expression negative 5 times 3x minus 8? Oh, these are parentheses. What does parentheses mean? Look at those. There's parentheses and there's a number outside of it. What does that mean? That means multiplying. And this is one of our properties. You remember what it is? The distributive property. Distribute means give out. When I am giving out, I am using the operation of multiplying. -5 times 3x. -5 times -8. So I'm using my distributive property. Here it is, my distributive property. I'm doing -5 times times 3x, and that's going to get me -15x. And then I have to do -5 times -8, and that's going to get me a positive 40. My final answer is going to be a combination of those two answers. -15x plus 40. Choice B. Again, make sure everything's written down on your paper. Number 22. Which of the following is in order from least to greatest? Okay, let's take a look at these. Lots of different ones. There's some absolute values in here. It's not easy to pick out the answer right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one individually. Alright, F starts with 11. Okay, well that's just 11. Absolute value of 4, well that's 4. Absolute value of -2, that's 2. Wait a minute, this isn't in order from least to greatest. That's a bigger number, so F's out. Least to greatest. Okay, let's keep going. Let's start with G. 0, that's just 0. Absolute value of -2, that's 2. Absolute value of 4, that's 4. -6, oh, that's not in order. Alright, up to H. -6, that stays the same. 0, that stays the same. Absolute value of -2, that's 2. Absolute value of 4, that's 4. And 11. Hey, -6, 0, 2, 4, 11. Those are in order from least to greatest. Done. Let's double check this last one just in case. -6, that's just -6. Absolute value of 4, that's 4. Absolute value of -2, that's 2. Here's where they come out of order. So it's not I either. Alright, next one. What is the value of this expression below? Again, PEMDAS comes into play because I have multiple operations. I have division, I have multiplying. Well, PEMDAS says which one comes first. Oh, don't get tricked. There's parentheses here. So I have to do these parentheses first.